Dad, count us in. 3 laps, I said. No curb jumping? No curb jumping, Noah echoed. Carving a circle by the mailbox. I'm faster, Liam said. Chin up like a dare. You're tied until somebody proves it, I said, leaning on the porch rail and letting their laughter unknot my chest. Ready? Go, Wheels sang. Brakes chirped. For a minute, the street sounded like the life I promised them. Then I felt the stare, sharp, measuring. Phone to her cheek. Head tilted like a judge who already had a verdict. Ma'am? I called. Everything all right? She didn't answer me. Her mouth hovered near the phone, voice lowered for someone else. Her eyes stayed on my boys. That calm that isn't kindness. Ma'am, can I help you? I tried again, stepping off the porch. I'm already getting help, she breathed into the receiver. 2 juveniles, hoodies, circling the same house. Yes, I feel unsafe. My stomach cinched. I put my coffee down because my hands shook. Those are my sons, I said. They live here. Do they? She said, like I'd told her a joke with no punchline. Noah, Liam, driveway, I said. Kickstands, they rolled back to me, tires whispering. Eyes up, waiting for the rule they broke. What's wrong? Liam asked. Nothing, I lied, because fear makes me edit the truth around them. Stand by me. I'll stay on the line, she told the dispatcher, turning her shoulder a fraction as if that made us less real. A cruiser slid onto the block like a held breath. No siren, just blue patience. My pulse matched the engine idle. Steady, then not. Hands where I can see them, a voice said from the open window before the car even stopped. My hands lifted. The gesture tasted like metal. Officer, I'm the homeowner. Door opened. Boots on asphalt. Badge? Lewis. Eyes doing math with my skin. Hand near his belt like it lived there. Name, he said. Marcus Cole, I said. My sons, Noah and Liam. We moved in last month. The neighbor edged closer, phone still up. Officer, I'm Karen Whitmore. I called. I see that, he said. Mr. Cole, step to the sidewalk. I'm on the sidewalk, I said, keeping my voice low. The boys pressed into my ribs like questions I needed to answer. We're home. Proof of residence? He asked. Proof? I echoed. The word scraped. They're my sons, not suspects. I didn't say they were suspects, he said, gaze slipping from me to Karen, back to the kids. We received a call. You received a fear, I said. That's not the same thing. Dad, Noah whispered. Did we do something? You wrote in a circle, I said. Apparently that's a crime if your circle is brown. Karen smiled with her teeth, not her eyes. I never mentioned color, she said. I described behavior. You described bodies, I said. You just left the label blank. Mr. Cole, Officer Lewis said, palms half raised like a director cooling a scene. I need identification, and I need to know who these kids belong to. They belong to me, I said, heat rising. They have my last name. They have my blood. They have my face. Isn't that enough? Can you prove that? He asked, my jaw locked. I pulled my wallet slow, swallowing those old instructions about sudden movements. Driver's license. The folded closing statement I'd carried like armor since the day we signed. I handed them over. Dad? Liam said, voice thin. Breathe, I said, to him, to me. Paper crinkled in the officer's hands. Radio crackle. My heart knocking like it wanted out. Karen's voice returned, silk over stone. Officer, you know how it is. This subdivision has had issues. Which issues, Miss Whitmore? I asked. New neighbors with 2 bikes and a late Amazon package? I don't want trouble, she said. I want safety. You called trouble, I said. You named it safety to feel better. Sir, Lewis said, eyes on the paperwork, we respond to calls. I'm not here to accuse anyone. You started with my hands, I said, raising them again without being told. Before a name, before good afternoon, you wanted surrender. That's protocol. That's habit, I said, feeling the tremor in my forearms. And habits have targets. Marcus, Noah said, using my first name like he does when he's scared. Are we moving again? No, I said, throat tight. We're standing here. Karen folded her free arm. Marcus, is it? I'm sure you're a good father. But they were circling and staring at my house. It looked suspicious. We were racing, Liam said. We were trying to tie. Tie what? She asked, disbelief a thin thread. Each other, he said. You can tie if you both win. Lewis glanced at him. Something softened, then hid. Ms. Whitmore, did they approach your property? They hovered, she said. They studied the windows. Our windows, I said. They were mapping dreams. Corner room, morning light where a poster goes. That's what you saw. Mr. Cole, the officer said, I understand your frustration. You understand my restraint, I said. My frustration is the part you won't put in a report. He handed back my license. He hesitated with the closing statement like it might bite. Everything checks. Of course it checks, I said. It checked before you parked. Karen lowered her phone. I'm relieved, she said, as if any truth had been tested but her belief. I was protecting the community. From kids with my face, I said. Say the whole sentence. I don't appreciate being called racist, she snapped. I didn't call you a name, I said. I described an act. Lewis cleared his throat. Ms. Whitmore, if you feel unsafe again, call, but maybe speak to your neighbors first. I tried, she said, gesturing to my sidewalk like it was a stage she'd conquered. He was confrontational. I asked if you were okay, I said. I kept asking, Sir. The officer turned to me. I do want to note the hoodies can look like weather, I said. Like childhood? Like the only layer they can control? His eyes slid away. The pause hurt more than the suggestion. I'm advising awareness. For everyone. Noah barely breathed the words. Can we go inside? In a minute, I said, then to Lewis. What would have been enough? If I didn't have the paper, if the license had an old address, if my hand moved too fast? I can't answer hypotheticals, he said. They're not hypothetical, I said. They're memory. Karen checked her watch like Mercy had a schedule. If we're settled, officer, I have a meeting. You started one, I said. Stay for the minutes. Mr. Cole, Lewis said, lower now, we're done here. I'd like this to end without a report. It never ends without a report, I said. It just ends without your paperwork. He nodded. Practice, not apology. Kids, he said to my sons, be careful, all right? We were, Noah said. The cruiser rolled away. Blue slipped off the houses. My pulse stayed. Karen hovered a beat longer. I hope we can be good neighbors, she said, smile polished to a glare. Good neighbors don't dial fear and call it care, I said. I was keeping the community safe. You were keeping it small, I said. There's a difference. She left. The street swallowed her echo. The bikes leaned against the rail like tired animals. Inside, I said. Water then homework. They moved quiet. At the door, Liam looked back. Did we win? You tied, I said. My arms dropped, heavy. You both won. Will she call again? Noah asked. She might, I said, and we'll still be home. He nodded, brave in a small way that broke me. Do we say hi to her next time? We say what keeps us human, I said. Hello if it's honest. Silence if it's safe. They stepped in. Sneakers thumped down the hall. The porch held the dent of what had just sat on it. I picked up my coffee, cold and mirror dark. My face stared back, and the two that match it better than any card. They have my face, I whispered. To the street, to the shrinking echo, to the part of me that still wanted to shout. And that should be enough. The knock came just as I was pouring my coffee, soft, polite, practiced. When I opened the door, she was there, Karen Whitmore, yesterday's alarm in human form. Her hands clutched a casserole dish like a peace treaty. Her smile was sugar-coated guilt. Good morning, she said. I just wanted to clear the air. I didn't step aside. There's a lot of air to clear. She hesitated, the dish shifting between her palms. I thought maybe we could start fresh. I feel terrible about yesterday. You have to know I never meant any harm. You called the police, I said quietly. That usually counts as harm. Her face twitched. I didn't call on them, I called about them. I didn't know they were your boys. You saw their skin before their faces. That landed. Her eyes darted toward the driveway where the bike still leaned against the fence. Silent proof of what she'd done. I just reacted, she said quickly. You know how things are on the news lately. So many break-ins, people pretending to be children? I interrupted. Racism doesn't need an excuse. It just needs a reason that sounds polite. Her smile broke, then regrouped. I'm not racist. I was scared. Alone. My husband's away on business, and when I saw, you didn't see danger, I said. You imagined it, and my kids paid for it. Behind me, I heard Nina's footsteps. Marcus, she whispered, resting her hand on my shoulder. Take a breath. Karen turned toward her instantly, relief flooding her tone. You understand, right? I was just being cautious. I'd do the same if anyone looked suspicious near your house. Nina's voice stayed calm. And what does suspicious look like to you? Karen blinked, caught. I mean, it's not about color. It's just, well, two hoodies circling the block. They were racing, I said. Competing for who could laugh louder without getting noticed. I didn't know, she murmured. You didn't want to know. Silence pressed between us. I could hear the coffee cooling on the counter behind me, the sound of my sons upstairs. Faint, safe, temporary. Karen cleared her throat. Look, I came to apologize. Isn't that what you want? I'm trying here. What I want, I said, is for my boys to grow up without your fear chasing them down the street. That's not fair, she said. You're making me the villain. You dialed the number, I said. You wrote your own script. Her eyes filled with tears she seemed proud to display. I thought we could move past this. I even baked something. Keep it, I said. You can't sweeten a scar. Nina stepped in gently. Marcus, maybe that's enough. Enough? I asked. She's explaining why fear gets to stay comfortable. Karen's voice trembled. You know how the world is, and you can't be too careful. The news? Stop using the news as your conscience, I said. You're not protecting the world. You're protecting the lie that lets you sleep. She stared at me, searching for a softer version of me that didn't exist anymore. I'm not a bad person, she whispered. I just made a mistake. You didn't make a mistake, I said. You made a choice. The silence after that wasn't peace. It was the kind that hums inside your ribs, too heavy to name. Nina broke it first. Karen, we appreciate you coming by, she said. But maybe give us time. Karen nodded, blinking back her tears, clutching the untouched casserole. I just wanted to be a good neighbor. You still can, I said. Start by not calling the cops on 10-year-olds. She turned without another word. Her heels clicked down the walkway like punctuation marks to an unfinished sentence. When the door closed, Nina leaned against it, exhaling. You handled that better than I would have, did I? I asked. Because all I feel is tired. She touched my hand. You didn't lose control. I wanted to, I admitted. Every word she said was another way of saying I don't see you. Upstairs, the boys' laughter broke through. Small, distant, clean. I let it anchor me. Nina squeezed my hand. Let it go for today. I can't, I said quietly. Because tomorrow it'll be someone else's door she knocks on. And for a long moment, I just stood there, the sound of her footsteps fading down the street. The smell of her untouched casserole still clinging to the doorway like a memory that refused to leave. The chair creaked beneath me as I sat across from the principal's desk. The walls were lined with motivational posters about respect and integrity, the kind of words that look good on paper and vanish in practice. Principal Evans folded his hands. Mr. Cole, we appreciate you coming in on such short notice. I didn't have a choice, I said. You suspended my son, he cleared his throat. It's a temporary suspension, 3 days. We take all behavioral incidents seriously. What behavior? I asked. Because when I got the call, all I heard was that he talked back. Before he could answer, Ms. Richardson, the teacher, spoke up. It wasn't just talking back. It was tone. It was disrespectful. I looked at her, then at Evans. So, his tone is a disciplinary offense now? It's about attitude, she said quickly. The way he challenged me in front of the class. What did he say? She hesitated. He corrected me. I felt my jaw tighten. Corrected you about what? I was explaining historical contributions in American literature, she said, shifting in her seat. He interrupted to say I left out Langston Hughes. I told him we'd get to him later, but he insisted I was wrong. I turned to my son. Liam? He stared at his shoes. I didn't interrupt, he said softly. She said there weren't any black poets that influenced modern writing. I said Langston Hughes did. I looked at Ms. Richardson again. And that got him suspended? It wasn't what he said, she replied, her voice rising slightly. It's how he said it. He was angry. He was passionate, I said. You don't hear confidence. You hear defiance. The silence that followed pressed against my skin. I could feel my pulse in my palms. Evans sighed, using the tone reserved for lectures he's given 100 times. Mr. Cole, we understand your frustration. But there's a pattern here. Students must learn proper respect for authority. Authority earns respect, I said. It doesn't get to redefine it every time a kid like mine opens his mouth. Mr. Cole. No, I said. You called him aggressive, didn't you? Evans blinked. I said assertive. My exact words were assertive. Then why is he in suspension instead of student council? Ms. Richardson shifted in her chair again. We have to maintain order. When students feel they can challenge teachers, it sets a bad precedent. What kind of precedent? I asked. One where facts matter? Her lips pressed together. This isn't about race. My laugh came out sharper than I meant. It's always about race. You just don't have to name it to use it. Marcus, Liam whispered, tugging my sleeve. It's fine. It's not fine, I said, trying to steady my breath. You deserve to speak the truth without paying for it. Evans leaned forward. Let's not turn this into a larger issue. We're here to discuss your son's behavior. My son's behavior? I said, looking from one to the other. He defended a piece of history you erased, and you punished him for being correct. Ms. Richardson's face flushed. That's unfair. So is this meeting, I said. Because you're sitting behind authority, and we're sitting behind consequence. For a moment, no one spoke. Outside, I could hear the muffled chatter of parents in the hallway. A few paused near the door, pretending not to listen. Liam's voice broke the silence. Dad, it's like they expect me to mess up. The words hit harder than I was ready for. My chest tightened, not from anger, from the weight of recognition. I know, I said quietly. I used to sit in rooms like this, too. Evans folded his arms. We don't make assumptions here. Yes, you do, I said. You just call them policies. Ms. Richardson started to protest, but Evans held up a hand. Let's find a solution, he said. Perhaps Liam could write a reflection paper about how to communicate disagreement respectfully. Respectfully, I repeated. He already did that. You just didn't like who it came from. Her eyes darted to the floor. He was emotional. He's 10, I said. He's supposed to be emotional. You want obedience, not understanding? Evans leaned back. You're taking this personally. I am, I said. Because it is personal. Every time you punish confidence, you're teaching him to shrink. The room went still. I could feel my hands trembling, but my voice didn't falter. Evans glanced at Ms. Richardson, then back at me. I'll review the case, he said finally. Maybe the suspension can be reconsidered. Not maybe, I said. Do it. And next time, ask yourself why you hear threat in his voice but not in mine. I stood. Liam followed, quiet, his small hand slipping into mine. As we reached the door, Ms. Richardson spoke again. Mr. Cole, I really do care about my students. I paused. Then start by listening to them. Out in the hallway, the air felt thicker, heavier. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until we reached the parking lot. Liam looked up at me. Are you mad? I'm tired, I said. Not at you and at this. He nodded, eyes on the ground. I think they already decided what kind of kid I am. Then we'll make them wrong, I said. He smiled weakly. Like Langston Hughes? Exactly like him, I said. We got in the car, and as I started the engine, I caught my reflection in the mirror. A face fighting to stay calm in a world that keeps testing how much silence it can take before it breaks. I woke up to my phone buzzing like it was on fire. 20 missed calls. 30 notifications. One message from a friend that read, You're trending. What the hell? I muttered, opening the link. The video played, shaky, zoomed in, the scene on the sidewalk where the police stopped me and my boys. My voice cracked through distorted audio. They have my face. Isn't that enough? In the background, Karen's voice. I was just keeping the community safe. Noah's cry, Liam's fear, my humiliation, all of it frozen in pixels and hashtags. I sat on the edge of the bed staring at the screen. Nina stirred beside me. "What's wrong?" "It's online," I said. "Someone recorded it." She grabbed the phone, watched it in silence. I heard her breath catch. Oh, God. Within minutes, the internet had turned our pain into their debate. Comment sections boiling with strangers who thought they knew us. "Look at this," I said, scrolling. "He was aggressive. Why didn't he just cooperate?" "Karen did nothing wrong." Nina reached for the phone. "Stop reading that." "I can't," I said. "They're rewriting it in real time." "They always do," she said quietly. Downstairs, I could hear the boys whispering, the kind of whisper that carries fear even when it's soft. Nina looked at me. "We can't win shouting online." I stared at her, throat tight. "Silence is what they want." "Marcus," she said, voice low but steady, "you can't fight the internet." "I'm not trying to fight the internet," I said. "I'm trying to fight erasure." The phone buzzed again. A local reporter, then another, then a message from someone claiming to be from a news channel. Nina sighed. "Don't answer them. They'll tell the story anyway," I said. "Might as well tell it myself." Before I could reply to anyone, the TV downstairs blared. My boys had turned on the news. "Karen Whitmore," the anchor said, "has spoken out after being accused of racial profiling." I froze. Her face filled the screen. Perfect lighting, soft music, eyes glistening. "I was just doing what any responsible neighbor would do," she said. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone. But I've been attacked online. My family's receiving threats." Noah called up the stairs. "Dad, she's on TV!" I went down slowly. She kept talking. "I love this community. I'd do it again if I thought something was wrong. People are twisting my intentions." "She's the victim now," I whispered. Nina crossed her arms. She knows how to play it. Reporters' voices overlapped. Screens cut between her and the video of me, frozen mid-sentence. The anchor smiled. Joining us next, a discussion on neighborhood safety and racial tension. Liam turned toward me. "Why are they saying she's the good one?" "Because she's crying on camera," I wanted to say. "Because her tears are worth more than our fear." Instead, I said, "Because sometimes people like stories better than truth." The boys stared at the screen as if watching their own innocence crumble. Nina muted the TV. "We should turn this off." "Wait," I said. "Listen to this." The anchor read viewer comments aloud. "Karen's brave. The father overreacted. These people always play the race card." "These people," I whispered. "That's who we are to them." Nina touched my arm. "Don't let them drag you down into that pit." But I was already there. "You think if I stay quiet, they'll see the truth?" "No," she said. "I think if you speak angry, they'll only see the stereotype." My phone buzzed again. A friend from college. "Bro, I saw the video. Proud of how calm you stayed." Another message. "Sorry you're going through this." Then another. "Not everything is about race, man." I wanted to throw the phone across the room. Noah looked up at me. "Dad, are we in trouble?" "Not with me," I said. "Never with me. But everyone's saying we did something wrong." I knelt in front of him. "People see what they want to see. Doesn't mean they're right." He frowned. "But why do they hate us?" "They don't even know us." I had no good answer. Just the ache that came from knowing I'd asked the same question my whole life. The phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered this time. "Mr. Cole, this is Fox 7 News. We'd love to get your side of the story. Ms. Whitmore has already agreed to an interview." "She would," I said. "She's fluent in innocence." "Excuse me?" I said no comment. I hung up. Nina exhaled. "This is going to get worse before it gets better." "It already is," I said. "You hear that silence outside?" That's the sound of people deciding who we are without ever knocking on our door. We sat there in the dim light, the air thick with what wasn't being said. The boys were still by the TV, the glow painting their faces. Two reflections of me, watching a world that still didn't know how to see us. Nina broke the silence. "Maybe we should delete social media for a while." "Deleting it won't delete the story," I said. "They've already made their minds up. Then what do we do?" I stared at the dark screen where Karen's face had just been, framed by sympathy. We tell the truth louder. But not for them. For who then? She asked. For the boys, I said. Because someday they'll need proof that we didn't just survive it. We spoke. I stood up, phone in hand, thumb hovering over the camera icon. Marcus, she said softly. Once you speak, you can't take it back. I know. I hit record. My reflection filled the screen. Tired eyes. Clenched jaw, truth ready to bleed. I took a breath. My name is Marcus Cole, I said, voice steady. I'm not here to fight her. I'm here to remind you what she called protection nearly cost my sons. And as the red light blinked, I thought about every lie written in the comments, every silence in the room, every lesson my boys were forced to learn too early. This time, the world was going to hear my version, whether they wanted to or not. The message came through an email that didn't belong to the past, yet it sounded like it did. Judge Whitmore requests a private meeting, 1 hour. His chambers. I stared at the screen for a long time. I could almost hear the voice behind those words, deep, polished, used to obedience. When I arrived, the courthouse was too quiet. The kind of silence that smells like power. Mr. Cole, he said, standing as I entered. His handshake was firm, brief, the kind meant to establish order before the first word. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I didn't agree, I said. I came to hear why you think I should. His lips twitched, almost a smile. Direct, I like that. I took the seat across from him. His desk was spotless. Nothing human about it. Just papers, a gavel, and his daughter's framed photo smiling from behind the glass. He folded his hands. I'll get straight to it. My daughter acted rashly. You and I both know tempers can lead to misjudgment. She didn't misjudge, I said. She saw exactly what she wanted to see. She's a good person, Marcus. I raised her to be thoughtful, civic-minded. You raised her to believe she is the community, I interrupted. And that the rest of us are guests. His eyes narrowed slightly. I understand your anger, but I'd caution you against interpreting her actions as representative of prejudice. She called the police on my children. Judge, you don't get to rename that as caution. He exhaled, long and careful. You have to see this from a broader perspective. People today live under constant tension, news cycles, crime rates, fear in every headline. She responded to that fear. Fear doesn't give you a badge, I said, or a free pass. Nor does pain give you moral authority, he said, voice tightening. You're not the only one who suffered consequences. My family's been harassed, our home vandalized, my chambers flooded with hate mail. That's not justice. That's mob outrage. And yet you still have your job, I said. You still get to sit behind that desk and decide who deserves to speak. He looked at me for a long moment. You think I'm your enemy? I think you built the walls she hides behind. He leaned back, studying me the way men like him study verdicts before delivering them. Mr. Cole, I didn't ask you here to argue. I asked you here to offer understanding. Reconciliation if possible. Reconciliation? I said. You mean silence dressed as civility? He frowned. I'm trying to extend goodwill. No, I said. You're trying to protect a legacy. Something flickered across his face. Insult or recognition, I couldn't tell. Legacy matters, Mr. Cole. It's what men like us leave behind. Men like you, I said. Men like me just try to leave our kids alive. His eyes darted toward the photo of his daughter. You're a father. You understand wanting to protect your family? Then why couldn't she see mine as worth protecting? She made a mistake. She made a choice. He paused, searching for control. I won't defend her words. But you must admit that this has gone too far. The video, the interviews, the outrage. It's destroying reputations. It's revealing them, I said. I've spent 40 years upholding the law, he said, straightening his posture like it was armor. I know when something is being twisted for spectacle. And I've spent 40 years living beneath those laws, I said. I know when something's been twisted for comfort. He blinked slowly, measuring the distance between our truths. I'm not your enemy, Mr. Cole, he said again, softer this time. I'm an old man watching the world fracture in ways I barely recognize. Maybe we can meet in the middle. There's no middle between right and wrong, I said. He sighed. You sound like a preacher. I sound like a man who's done apologizing for making you uncomfortable. The silence that followed was thick enough to taste. He didn't fill it. That surprised me. Judges hate silence. It reminds them they don't control everything. When he finally spoke, the authority in his voice was quieter now, almost human. You think my apology means nothing? I don't think it's an apology, I said. I think it's public relations with better lighting. He stared at his hands. You want me to admit guilt for something I didn't do? You didn't need to do it, I said. You taught it, his gaze snapped up. Careful, I leaned forward. Careful is what got us here. He looked at me like a man accustomed to verdicts, not reversals. You speak with such certainty. But someday you'll realize the world isn't as simple as oppressor and oppressed. It is when you're on the wrong side of the call, I said. When a father has to teach his kids how to survive a misunderstanding. He rubbed his temples. So what do you want from me? Nothing, I said. That's the point. I don't need your permission to exist. He let out a long breath, shoulders sinking just a little. You won't forgive her. I don't need to, I said. Forgiveness isn't freedom when the wound is still open. His next words came quietly. You think I failed her? I think you failed us all, I said. Because you taught her how to justify pain instead of recognize it. He didn't answer. The silence was heavier this time. Not power, but weight. When he finally spoke, his voice was smaller than before. Maybe you're right, he said. Maybe we've all forgotten how to listen. I stood. Then start now. He nodded once, but didn't look up. His fingers drummed on the desk, steady, deliberate. The rhythm of a man who doesn't know how to surrender. As I walked toward the door, I heard him whisper, almost to himself, You want redemption without responsibility. I stopped. No, I said. I want responsibility without excuses. I left him there, an old man in a quiet office, surrounded by symbols of justice that no longer meant what they used to. Outside, the air felt lighter, but my chest didn't. Maybe it never would. The courtroom smelled like dust and performance. Every sound echoed too long. Shoes on tile, papers rustling, quiet sighs pretending to be patience. I sat there, hands folded, heart steady only because I'd run out of ways to tremble. Amira leaned toward me. Remember, she whispered, truth isn't always loud. Sometimes it's calm. I nodded, though calm was a language I barely spoke anymore. Across the room, Karen sat between her lawyer and her father, Judge Whitmore, the man who'd once told me legacy mattered more than apology. Now he wouldn't even meet my eyes. Case number 4623, the clerk announced. Whitmore versus Cole. Her lawyer stood first, polished, smooth, voice soaked in rehearsed compassion. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, my client, Mrs. Whitmore, is a devoted mother and community member. She has endured relentless online attacks, humiliation, and threats, all because of a misunderstanding taken out of context. Misunderstanding. The word landed like an insult wrapped in silk. She did not act out of hatred, he continued. She acted out of fear, a natural human instinct when one believes their safety is at risk. Fear. There it was again. That word people use when they mean prejudice, Amira stood. My client will be happy to clarify what kind of fear justified calling armed officers on 2 children. The judge nodded. Proceed. Amira walked toward the stand where Karen sat, shoulders tilted to look fragile. Mrs. Whitmore, she said gently, can you tell us why you called the police that day? Karen took a breath, eyes glassy on cue. I saw 2 boys circling my street. I didn't recognize them. They had hoodies on. It made me uneasy. Uneasy, Amira repeated. Were they doing anything illegal? No, she said softly. But were they trespassing? No. Were they armed? Karen hesitated. Not that I saw. Did they speak to you? No. Did they threaten you? Not directly, no. Amira turned toward the jury. So you called the police on 10-year-olds for existing in your neighborhood? Karen's lawyer rose. Objection, argumentative. Sustained, the judge said, voice flat. Amira smiled faintly. Withdrawn. Then she faced Karen again. You said you were scared. Scared of what exactly? Karen's voice cracked. I didn't know who they were. They didn't look like they belonged there. And what does belong look like to you, Mrs. Whitmore? Her lawyer jumped up again. Objection. Overruled, the judge said quietly. Karen's eyes darted to her father. He didn't look up. I just thought something was wrong, she stammered. I was protecting the neighborhood. I could feel my jaw tighten. I wanted to stand, to shout, but Amira's hand brushed mine under the table, a silent reminder to let the truth do the shouting. Amira tilted her head. So, in your mind, the best protection is summoning police to confront children? Karen's voice trembled. You don't understand what it's like to feel unsafe in your own home. I finally spoke. You weren't scared of danger. You were scared of difference. The words hit the room like a dropped gavel. Her lawyer turned. Mr. Cole, please refrain from unsolicited statements. The judge looked at me. You'll have your turn to testify. I met his stare. I'm ready now, Amira nodded. We're calling Mr. Cole to the stand. The oath meant nothing. I'd been telling the truth my whole life. No one ever believed it until it cost them something. Mr. Cole, Amira said, can you describe what happened that afternoon? I looked at the jurors, faces that shifted between sympathy and discomfort. My sons were riding their bikes outside our home. I was watching from the porch. Mrs. Whitmore called the police. When the officers arrived, they treated me like the threat. My sons saw all of it, Amira nodded. And how did that make you feel? How does it feel when the world still doubts your innocence after you prove it 1,000 times? I said. It felt like history replaying through my children's eyes. Karen's lawyer stepped forward. Mr. Cole, you went on to speak publicly about this incident, correct? I did. And in those statements, you referred to my client as a racist. I described her actions, I said. The label came from her behavior, not my words. So you deny defaming her. I didn't defame her, I said. I defined her, murmurs rippled through the courtroom. The judge banged his gavel once. Karen's lawyer leaned closer. You understand the damage this has done to her reputation. The threats? The fear? The kind of fear she gave my sons? I said. Welcome to equality, he frowned. You seem angry. Wouldn't you be? I asked. If your family became hashtags while the person who caused it got sympathy interviews? Mr. Cole, he said, tone dripping with false civility. Do you regret how you handled this? I stared at Karen, who couldn't meet my gaze. No, I said. Because for once, the world saw what we live with and believed us. He shifted uncomfortably. Do you hate my client? I exhaled slowly. I don't hate her. Hate gives her power. I just refuse to excuse her. Amira stepped in again. One last question, Mr. Cole. What do you hope comes out of this trial? I looked at the judge, then at Karen. Accountability, I said. Not the kind written in court transcripts, but the kind that keeps my sons from becoming headlines. The judge's pen stopped moving. Karen wiped her tears like a woman desperate to stay the victim in her own story. Amira faced the jury. You heard the testimony. You saw the contrast. One side felt discomfort. The other lived fear. The law can't fix what empathy refuses to see, but it can name it. Her voice cracked for the first time. We ask you to name it. The room fell silent. Even Karen's lawyer didn't move. I glanced at the jurors again. No expressions, just thought. But thought was enough. Silence this time was louder than denial. When the gavel finally struck, it didn't sound like judgment. It sounded like truth catching its breath, and for the first time in months, I let mine out. The knock came like guilt trying to sound polite. I didn't need to check the peephole. Only one person knocked that softly, but carried that much noise. When I opened the door, Karen stood there. No makeup, no camera, no armor. Just swollen eyes and a trembling voice. Marcus, please. Can I come in? I didn't move. Why? Because I don't know where else to go. The words fell heavy, rehearsed, but broken. She looked smaller than before, or maybe I'd finally stopped giving her size. I stepped aside. Not because I wanted to, but because some part of me still believed in decency. Even when it never believed in me, she walked in slow like the floor might reject her. I know I shouldn't be here, she said, but I need you to hear me out. I've heard enough of you, I said. Every headline, every interview, every tear that went viral. Her shoulders collapsed. They hate me now. Everyone. I can't even walk into the grocery store without whispers. Now you feel what you made us live with. She flinched, as if truth had touched her skin for the first time. I never meant to ruin your lives, but you did, I said. Because you thought ours were worth less than yours. Her lips quivered. That's not true. Then what is true, Karen? I asked. That you were scared? That you just reacted? That somehow my son's laughter turned into threat in your ears? Tears welled up, but they didn't look like remorse. They looked like performance. I'm not a bad person, she said, voice breaking. I made a mistake. You didn't make a mistake, I said quietly. You made a choice. You saw black skin and called for backup. She stepped closer. You don't understand what it's like to be hated by everyone, to lose friends, to have your face plastered online. I cut her off. You think that's new to me? Her breath hitched. I've been followed in stores, pulled over for fitting a description, spoken over in meetings, ignored in lines, I said. You just got a crash course in what we live every day, Moik, and you still think you're the victim. I'm sorry, she said suddenly, louder now, almost angry. Is that what you want to hear? No, I said. I want you to feel it. I do feel it. She snapped. I haven't slept. I've lost my job. My father won't even speak to me. What more do you want? I want you to stop measuring pain and consequences, I said. You think this is about your reputation? It's about humanity, the one you refused to see until it cost you yours. She sank onto the couch, crying harder. I never wanted it to go this far. The news twisted everything. They made me a monster. You didn't need their help, I said. She looked up at me through tears. You're cruel. I'm tired. She blinked, confused. Of what? Explaining what should be obvious, I said. You didn't ruin my life, Karen. You reminded me how fragile it still is. Her voice softened. I wish I could take it back. You can't, I said. And that's the difference between you and me. You think guilt is redemption. I know it's just noise. Her breathing grew uneven. I thought you'd understand. I do, I said. That's why I can't comfort you. She looked at me then, really looked, as if seeing me for the first time, not the version she'd built to blame. You're a good man, she whispered. Better than me. I'm not better, I said. Just more aware of the damage I can do. She buried her face in her hands. I just wanted to do the right thing. You wanted to look right, I said. Those aren't the same. Silence filled the room, sharp and heavy. Her sobs softened into little gasps, the kind that sound like regret but taste like self-pity. She whispered, Do you hate me? I paused, then said, No, hate takes energy. You're not worth that anymore. She flinched again, like the words had weight she wasn't built to carry. Then what am I supposed to do now? Live with it, I said. The same way we had to. Her tears turned quiet. For the first time, she didn't try to explain herself. Maybe she finally ran out of excuses. I wanted forgiveness, she said weakly. I know. And you won't give it? I already did, I said, walking toward the door. The moment I stopped needing it. Her voice followed me, thin, breaking. Marcus, please! Say something. I opened the door. The light from outside cut through the living room, dividing her face in half, one side weeping, the other blank. I didn't say another word. My silence finished what her confession couldn't. And when I stepped outside, the air felt raw but clean, the kind that burns before it heals. The hall smelled like old wood and tension. I could feel it before I walked in, the buzz of whispered guilt dressed as civic duty. The folding chairs creaked beneath neighbors who hadn't looked me in the eye since the video. Karen sat near the front, pale under the fluorescent light. Her father stood at the podium, fingers gripping its edge like it was the only thing keeping him upright. I asked for this meeting, he began. His voice carried the weight of someone used to commanding silence. Because something has to be said. By me, the room went still. Even the air seemed to listen. I've spent my life believing I understood justice, he said. But justice, it seems, is more than law. It's what happens in the spaces where law refuses to look. His words surprised me. Not for their truth, but for how long they took to arrive. My daughter, he continued, his voice shaking, did something I can't defend. But I also can't pretend she learned that fear in isolation. She learned it from me. Karen's head dropped. A few murmurs rippled through the crowd. I taught her to be careful, he said, to be aware. But what I never told her was that awareness without empathy becomes suspicion, and suspicion without courage becomes hate. I watched him fight his own words, each one cutting deeper than the last. I told myself I was raising her to survive in a world of chaos. But what I was really teaching her, he said softly, was how to hide behind fear. He paused, looked down at his trembling hands, and then lifted his gaze toward me. My silence raised her more than my words ever did. The words hung in the air, simple, brutal, and true. I could feel everyone watching me, waiting for me to react, waiting for me to release him from the weight of what he'd just said. I didn't move. He took a slow breath. We talk about accountability like it's a punishment, he said. But maybe it's an inheritance, the kind that forces us to confront what we pass down. When he stepped away from the podium, the room didn't applaud. It didn't breathe. The quiet was respect, or maybe confusion. Then they looked at me, Amira, sitting in the back, nodded once. Nina's hand brushed my shoulder. My sons stood beside me, small, steady anchors in a storm that wasn't theirs to create. I walked to the front. Each step felt like walking through memory. The sidewalk, the flashing lights, the eyes that refused to see. When I reached the microphone, I didn't speak right away. I wanted them to feel the same silence I'd been forced to live in. Finally, I said, "Justice isn't revenge. It's recognition." The words came out lower than I expected, almost calm. "I'm not here to punish anyone," I said. "I'm here because pretending this town is fine doesn't make it fine. Pretending this was an accident doesn't make it one." A man in the back shifted in his chair. Someone coughed. The unease was alive. "When my sons were stopped that day," I said, "the world reminded me that the color of our peace still looks like someone else's threat." Karen looked up. Her eyes were red, not from shame, from exhaustion. "I've heard people say we should move on," I said. "But moving on without learning isn't growth. It's denial with better manners." A few heads nodded. A few looked down. "I don't want sympathy," I said. "Sympathy is what people offer when they don't want to change. I want truth, the kind that stings, the kind that makes you look in the mirror and ask what part of you still believes fear is protection." Someone whispered, "He's right." Another said, "Let him finish." I continued. Karen's mistake wasn't just hers. It was built by this community, by the quiet nods, the cautious glances, the unspoken rules about who belongs. "You built that and you called it normal," my voice caught. I looked at my boys standing by the wall, their hands locked together. They're growing up here too, and I want them to believe they can walk this street without shrinking first. The room stayed silent, but it felt different now. Not defensive, just uncertain. I turned slightly toward Judge Whitmore. "You said accountability is inheritance. Maybe this is where it changes hands." He nodded once, his eyes wet, no longer the judge, just a father trying to undo what he'd passed on. Karen's voice broke from the front row. "Marcus." I looked at her but didn't speak. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything." I could tell she wanted me to say something that would let her breathe again, something that would absolve her. But I'd spent too many years suffocating under other people's comfort. I just said, "Then change it." Her mouth opened like she wanted to ask how, but I didn't give her the chance. I stepped back from the microphone. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then a few hands clapped, hesitant, uneven. Others joined, not from celebration, but from discomfort. Applause had never felt quieter. When I turned to leave, I saw my boys smiling faintly. Not proud, just relieved that truth had finally been spoken aloud. As we walked out, I heard one woman whisper to another, "I didn't know he could speak like that." I smiled to myself. We've been speaking for generations, I thought. You just started listening. Pass the salad? Noah asked, voice small but steady. I slid the bowl across. Go easy on the dressing, Liam smirked. He drowned it last time. I was experimenting, Noah said. You were ruining lettuce, Liam said. I let their bickering skate over the table. The quiet in the room wasn't heavy anymore. It felt like a bruise fading. Forks tapped. Glasses clinked. Breaths evened out. Nina looked at me. You ate 2 bites. I'm pacing myself. You're thinking, she said. I'm trying not to, I said, and failed a little. How was math? Boring, Liam said. But I aced the quiz. Confidence, I said, pointing my fork. Keep it, don't shrink it, he grinned. Yes, sir, we ate. We listened to the house settle. The day loosened its grip. Noah pushed peas around his plate like they were a puzzle. Go ahead, I said. Ask it, he glanced up. Do you think people change? My chest tightened. I put my fork down, because some questions deserve empty hands. Sometimes, I said, but only when their silence hurts more than their truth. So, will they change? He asked. The people in the neighborhood, her. I don't know, I said. That part isn't ours to carry. Liam sipped water. I don't want to be mad all the time. You won't be, I said. Anger's a flare. It shows where the pain is. Then you put it down. Nina reached across and laced her fingers with mine. We can still be gentle without being blind. Gentle, not silent, I said. Deal, she said. Liam leaned back. Can we go to the park tomorrow? The one with the busted hoop? After school, I said. I'll rebound. You two make me look foolish. We already do, he said, and Noah laughed, honest and warm. It landed in me like a light I didn't know I still had room for. Noah went quiet again. Dad, when they called you aggressive online? I read it, I said. I also turned it off. How? He asked. I chose who gets to live in my head, I said. Only the ones who pay rent. How do they pay rent? Liam asked. By telling the truth, I said. By wanting us whole. They nodded like they were memorizing instructions for a future pop quiz. The clock in the hallway ticked. Steady, patient. I took a breath that didn't scrape. Nina set her fork down. I thought healing would feel like a parade. What's it feel like? I asked. This, she said. Dishes, homework, planning a Saturday. It's unglamorous, which is how I know it's real. I let that settle. Real is enough. Noah pushed his plate away. Do we have to talk to her if she waves? You don't have to do anything that makes you small, I said. If hello is honest, say it. If hello is pressure, save it. What about you? He asked. I'll tell the truth even if it's short, I said. Liam frowned at the window. Is she watching us now? Probably not, I said. But even if she is, we're not a show. Feels like we were, Noah said. We were, I said. Never again if I can help it. Nina stood and began collecting plates. I'll rinse. You two handled the dishwasher. We always get the dishwasher, Liam complained. You also always eat, Nina said, and kissed his hair as she passed. Exchange rate, I stood to help. Noah tugged my sleeve. Are we safe now? We're safer together than apart, I said. That's the truth I trust. He nodded, then grinned. I call top bunk tonight. You don't even have a bunk bed, Liam said. I do when I stack pillows, Noah said. Engineering, I said. I respect it. We moved around each other easily. Plates, sink, towel, cabinet. A small choreography, not worth recording, but worth remembering. My shoulders loosened. My jaw unclenched. I felt the day realize it had lost. Noah spoke again, careful. Dad, will you talk again? Online? When I have something to build, not just something to burn, I said. I won't feed a fire that only wants smoke. That was a bar, Liam said. Put it on a t-shirt, I said. He smiled. I'd wear it. We finished the dishes. The table cleared. The kitchen lamp hummed a soft, ordinary note. I didn't want to name it peace, but it stood close enough to borrow sugar. A shadow moved outside. Liam noticed first. Dad, across the street a porch light clicked on. The window framed a face I knew too well. Karen stepped into view, hesitant, hands uncertain. She looked at our house, not through it. Her hand lifted, just a small wave that didn't ask for absolution, only acknowledgement. Noah whispered, What do we do? I looked at them, at Nina, at the home we'd fought for with words and restraint. We do what's true. I raised my hand. Not high. Not long. Enough. She lowered hers and retreated. The light stayed on. The night kept breathing. Nina leaned against the counter. You okay? I'm tired, I said. But it's the good kind, Liam yawned. Can we play 2-on-1 tomorrow? Me and Noah versus you. You'll lose, I said. We'll make you run, he said. That's different, I said, and they laughed again. Nina nodded toward the hallway. Teeth, then bed. They shuffled off, shoulders bumping. Shotgun bathroom, Noah called. Not a thing, Liam said. I invented rocket sink. I smiled into the quiet they left behind. The house held our voices like a promise. Outside, the street didn't change. Inside, we had. Nina slipped her arm around my waist. You kept us steady. I kept speaking, I said. That's all I know. That's enough, she said. I turned off the kitchen light. The window became a mirror. My face looked back, tired, certain, and for once I didn't search it for permission. From the hallway, Liam called, Dad? Yeah? Are we going to be okay? I didn't have to reach for the answer. Yeah, I said. We're okay already. I'm recording, I say into the phone. If either of you finds this years from now, know I meant every word tonight. I take a breath I can hear. Hey, Noah. Hey, Liam. A tiny red dot stares back like a patient witness. I've said a lot out loud this year, I continue. But some things I kept quiet because I didn't want to scare you. Tonight, I'm not hiding the truth or softening the edges. I let the house speak a second, heater clicking on. A pipe settling, the night outside doing what nights do. This is a letter you can play, I say. So I'll keep it in the language we know, words that stand up. I clear my throat. First thing, if the world doubts you, let your words prove you. Memory nudges me. I let it in. Hands where I can see them, I repeat, my voice lower. That's what he said before he said my name. That was the order before the courtesy. You heard it. You felt it. I pause, then speak to the past. Officer, I told you I was the homeowner. I switch back. Boys, I want you to remember how calm felt like courage that day. Not the kind that looks good in movies, the kind that shakes and holds anyway. A laugh slips out of me like a cough. I know. I tell you this all the time. I lean toward the mic. Second thing, never confuse quiet with safety. Silence can be a blanket or a gag. Check which one it is before you wrap yourself in it. Echoes come back like neighbors who refuse to move. We're just keeping the community safe. Do you belong here? You can't be too careful. Karen said she was protecting what she loved. I say, I heard what she feared. Fear speaks in full sentences if you let it. Don't translate it into excuses. Translate it into boundaries. I shift on the chair. I can hear the wood complain. Third thing, and this is for the night, you'll try to shrink to fit someone else's comfort. Don't. Your voice doesn't owe them softness. It owes you truth. I let the phone breathe me in and out. Noah, I say, like I'm threading a name through a buttonhole. Remember when you asked if we're in trouble? A memory answers, small and cracking, not with me. Never with me. You were brave, I say. Brave isn't loud. It's steady. It's the hand that doesn't let go even when it sweats. Liam, I say, smiling at the wall. You told me you didn't want to be mad all the time. I let the old conversation replay. Anger's a flare. It shows where the pain is. Then you put it down. You listened, I say. You both did. I sit back, phone warm in my palm. I keep thinking about the courthouse, about words in rooms where they're supposed to matter. I let the trial find my mouth. No, counselor, I didn't defame her. I defined her. I shake my head at the memory. I was tired and still I chose sentences like handholds. Boys, I say, language is a house. Build yours with windows facing yourself. Let the light correct you before the crowd does. A soft thump upstairs. One of you shifts in sleep. It sounds like forgiveness. I want to say this carefully, I go on. There are people who will say they didn't mean harm. They'll say the news scared them. They'll bake apologies and plate them warm. I lower my voice. Listen for the part where they see you. If they can't name the damage, they can't repair it. If they can't say, I did this, they're only saying, I hate how this looks. I exhale. The phone catches everything. You're going to hear my name in rooms I'm not in, I say. You'll hear versions of us told by people who think they own the story. Don't chase every lie. Speak your 2 or 3 honest lines and walk. I taste the memory again. Justice isn't revenge. It's recognition. That line wasn't strategy, I say. It was a promise I made to the part of me that wanted to tear the world down. I kept it because you were watching. I swallow. Your mom kept us soft without letting us go soft. If you forget everything else, remember how she says, gentle, not silent. It might save your life one day. I rub my thumb over the phone's edge. I should tell you the other truth, too. I was afraid. Not of the man or the badge or the woman by the mailbox. I was afraid you'd learn to expect less from the world than you deserved. I wait to see if the fear is still there. It is, but it doesn't lead. I don't want you to hate, I say. Hate burns the house that keeps you warm. I want you to notice. I want you to choose. I want you to speak. The night shifts. A passing car stitches a seam of light across the wall. Do I forgive her? I ask the red dot like it can answer. I forgave the part of her that's human. I refuse the part of her that asked me to make her feel better about the harm. That refusal is its own kind of love. For you, for me, I straighten. There's something else. People will tell you to be twice as good. They'll dress it up like a blessing. It's a hunger that never stops eating. I lean closer. Be fully yourselves instead. Whole beats twice as good every time. I laugh again, the tired kind that knows the road. And yes, practice free throws. Because your 2-on-1 is catching up to me. Words settle around me like chairs pushed back under a table. I'm almost done, I say. 2 more promises. 1, I will stand between you and the harm I can see. When I can't, I will stand with you in it until you can stand on your own. 2, I will not let the story stop at the worst day. We get to end it where we choose. Another memory taps the glass, a soft wave across the street, not asking to be absolved, only noticed. I leave it where it belongs. Small, complicated, real. Play this whenever the world feels louder than you, I say. Play it when someone calls your confidence defiance. Play it when you need the sound of a father who refused to shrink. I close my eyes. And for a moment I hear everything again. The officer's command, the neighbor's excuse, the anchor's script, your laughter cracked short, the gavel's thunk, the forum's awkward clap, your mother's whisper, gentle, not silent. Okay, I murmur. Final line. I picture your faces the way I like them best. Open, unguarded, lit by a home we kept. They called you suspects once, I say, steady and clear, giving the words a place to land. Now they'll call you men,